call this meeting of the Monroe County Council to order for Tuesday, November 14th. And I'd like to note for the record that all council members are here and present in the Nat U Hill room, except for Councilor Munson, who is in the courthouse and will be here shortly. Let's have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to note that if we get new chairs, they need to be spinny so that I can sit down and it's an important feature. All right. Does anyone wish to add or remove any items from our current agenda? I can say that we know that we need to table item 7. We've been tabling that item. I think it's the prosecutor's office, waiting for them to get paperwork on their grant, and they still have not done that. So can we table with a voice vote? All in favor of tabling item 7 until the next meeting?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. There is one other item. Item 10. We received an email giving us some information that item 10, which has also been tabled from the last meeting, there was just a kind of clerical fund misnumbering that has impacted advertising, so we would not be able to appropriate funds as a result. So I would like to propose that we table item 10 as well and put that on our work session.
So moved.
All in favor? Oh, there was a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. So are there any other items? Okay. Then let us proceed with item number 4 on the agenda, which is public comment for items that are not listed on the agenda. We usually have a time limit of 3 minutes per speaker. And we have one person in the room, and I see a hand raised on Zoom. So if we could please sign in if you're here, and if anyone else on Zoom has items they'd like to comment in, go ahead and raise your hands as well, and we'll get to you. So we'll start here in the room. Welcome. I don't think so.
How about now? Great. Good evening. My name is Jen Pearl. I'm the president of the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation. We just wanted to comment on the county development ordinance process, and also give a shout out to the public that Friday, November 17th is an upcoming deadline on proposed land use rules for zoning in the unincorporated areas for Monroe County through Module 2. So we wanted to remind residents to visit monroecdo.com, check on their property, review Module 2 of the draft CDO, and comment on any proposed changes. And also help spread the word. The more that we've been trying to talk to people about this, we realize the public is not fully aware of the changes that are coming into play. And so if you know of any property owners out in the county, or have clients, constituents, or colleagues with land or businesses out there, they should know that how they or future buyers use their property might change, so they would want to check that out. The last CDO update was in 1997, so we think these are important changes. While there are many good updates in the CDO, we did want to note that we really appreciate the county's hard work in this process. Planning, Plan Commission, everybody's put a lot of work into it. We did see some unintended consequences that may be arising from the changes. Our concerns are that residential zone land is slated to decrease, and land for employment growth remains limited, which are issues in our community when both affordable housing and employment and wages are key concerns of people across the community. The BEDC is working on a detailed policy memo with suggestions to submit to planning on this. We really appreciate them during this process, and just thank everybody for their engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Mr. Shelton on Zoom.
Good evening, Council. Jim Shelton. I just wanted to update the public on CASA's training plans for 2024. They have set the schedule. The first training will be February 6th through March 7th. And they continue to try different days and different times to see if it'll make training available to more people. So this will be the first training I know that'll be in the afternoon. It'll be on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. The training will cover the roles and responsibility of the CASA, the family dynamics of abuse and neglect, because there's quite often a pattern, child protection law in Indiana, and then the interactions that they can expect to encounter in dealing with children and families, case managers from DCS and other professionals. And finally, report writing in the way that the court expects to see things provided to them. So the CASA's job is to be another set of eyes and ears for the court to help Judge Harvey primarily know how the child's doing that has been removed from their parents because of abuse and neglect, how the parents are doing in addressing the problems that have caused this, and then how children, what they may need if they are old enough to need services. So please think about this. Application will be due January 24th. Thank you.
Thank you. As always, important messages. Are there any other members of the public who would like to make comment, either here or on Zoom? And I see none. So let's move to item number 5 on our agenda, and that is department updates. So are there any departments who wish to make an update at this time? All right, we have the
Good evening. Do I need to sign
sheriff's
in?
office here in the Nat U Hill room. Welcome.
Thank you. Just wanted to bring up to speed on and clarification the meeting we had today. I'm going to pass the floor to my deputy chief. He did the majority of the work for me and has all the specifics that we want to pass on to you. And particularly today, we actually reach out to certain people just to clarify certain things, and we felt that it's important that you as the actual council is aware of the conversation and what we actually learned today as well. So that being said, I'm going to pass the floor on to my deputy chief, and then I'll stand by just in case I need to add any other additional information that comes from me directly.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for your time and allowing us to speak to you. I've got a document I want to pass out to everybody here. You got one for you too here, Sheriff. So we'll walk through this. As the Sheriff said, we had a meeting today with several folks here about it basically dealt around the transition team and the transition team director's position. But before we do that, I want to kind of walk you through how we got to this point, and I'll do this pretty quickly. This started out, and Councilor McKim and Councilor Iverson will be clearing us, and I think Councilor Munson was there. We had a PAC meeting back on October 3rd regarding the transition team director. And basically what came out of that is that we all agreed out of that meeting that Molly and I were going to get together and start working out this director's position as a contract position. One, mainly to speed it up, and two, just because it just seemed to fit better. And we realized at that time that what we were really there was not a PAC issue, it was really a council issue. So we kind of punted that. Molly and I have been working together for quite some time here on this draft contract for the transition team director's position. And Molly, were you able to email that to them?
I did email the contract to council, but it was probably close to 4 o'clock, so I'm not sure how many individuals were able to read it.
I almost brought a copy with me, but I thought we were going to, anyway, it doesn't matter. But
I have a copy in front of me, and I can print the Exhibit A if you'd like real quick.
yeah, so I mean, it might be helpful, Molly, but the contract itself is a contract between the sheriff and whoever this person is going to be. I think we all kind of discussed that, agreed to it. We discussed in that meeting, we discussed the salary, we discussed a lot of things. But that meeting there, I timed it. We spent 42 minutes and 46 seconds talking about this. And we all it was very detailed, that discussion. And you go back to the PAC meeting, we spent 22 minutes there at the PAC meeting. So we've put some time into this. I thought we were headed in the right direction. On October 17th, we had a meeting at the sheriff's office regarding this issue too. So we've had 3 meetings about this. But what we talked about, and I think we all agreed upon here with this body, was the placement of that transition team director was an imminent thing. We needed to get it done. We needed to move forward. We specifically agreed that it was going to be a contract position. We agreed that it was going to be with the sheriff and overseen by the sheriff. We all agreed to that. The salary term, performance points, all of those things that Molly's going to be getting for us, we wanted that included in the contract. And I think you'll see that the scope of work is included in that contract. We discussed the office location, and I think Councilor Hawk brought that up. But the thing that was so important about that, and Councilor Hawk made this statement, that the urgency of that position was because up to this point, the staff, and that means the sheriff, myself, the jail commander, the assistant jail commander, have been assuming that role up to this point. And we have held since the beginning of time, since we started talking about this back earlier this year, that had to be a finite period of time. That we still have an agency to run. We have a jail that needs lots of attention. We have a jail commander that gives it lots of attention. And every time when we're in here talking about this, we're drawing from that, and it's starting to be problematic. I'll just tell you that. So, what I wanted to bring you up to the speed on this meeting here, because out of the blue, things changed, and I don't know how, but I want to discuss that. This meeting was a short notice meeting that we got together on Teams, and in that meeting was Sheriff Marte, myself, the jail commander, President Wiltz, Commissioner President Givens, Councilor Munson, Molly, and Mark Martin from the National Institute of Corrections. And we discussed the transition team director more than anything. That brings me to this.
Counselor Crossley was there too.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Did I? I put this together in like 5 minutes. So, does everybody have this? Mm-hmm. Okay, if you look at this, Mark Martin, who's the expert that did the pony training, points down to the pink box there under transition, and it talks about the transition team director. And we're in the needs assessment phase. And he says that's where we're at. So, as we go forward, we can see that as we follow this timeline, the transition team director plays very heavily into that. In conflict with this, and this is where I'm confused, is Commissioner Givens has expressed her desire that, or feeling that this one isn't a full-time position at this point. And she's also expressed that it needs to be an individual coming from the sheriff's staff, which was never part of the plan. And let me address that just a wee bit here. this meeting was, I'll say, contentious at best. The sheriff knows his staff. We've got a professional staff. We've got a lot of good folks working in there. But this person is going to be a project manager, managing a very large-scale, complicated, complex process. That person is not in the jail right now. They're just not there. They know how to manage the jail. They know how to work the jail. They have many, many skills, but that person's just not there. Other than Kyle Gibbons and Matt Demings could probably assume this role, but as we've said, we've established, and we've tried to make this omnipresent from the get-go. We cannot sacrifice the safety and security of that facility for this position. There's people out there that can do this, but it cannot come from the jail staff. It just can't. So we've always maintained our short-term ability to do this. And we're at the X marks the spot now. We have put tons and tons of time in this. I really thought tonight was going to be a discussion about ARPA funding for this position, and we may have been hiring this position next week. That was my naive thought process before we had this meeting this morning, and it looks like there's been a whole new stall brought into this now. So right here, when we're in the home stretch here, we're met with this unexpected nuance. And where it came from, I don't know. Why it's there, I don't know. Because the experts are telling us, now's the time, here's what this person's going to do. But we've had a lot of discussion about a design team and a transition team. So I took the liberty this afternoon and I called Scott Carnegie from DLZ because I wanted to get his thoughts on this. And here's what Scott told me. Let me back up. When we talked with Mark Martin from AIC, he agreed that this is a full-time position. He said, and right now, he said, but it may not be full-time at this very second. He goes, but it will throttle up very quickly, very, very quickly. So from our perspective, now's the time to start doing this because we're coming to lots of meetings about this. So here's what Scott Carnegie told me. I just made a few bullet points because I don't want to belabor this point any. The transition team director is a full-time position. The transition director's position is needed now or in the very near future. The transition team is normally comprised of, in its entirety, of all jail staff. It's all jail staff. They are the experts because there's talk about including other people on this design team and this transition team. He said, normally it's always made up of Sheriff's Department staff. Then I asked about the scenario of the design team and the transition team being separate. Here's what he told me. He said it's the best case scenario for the transition team and the design team if you're gonna designate the difference to be made up by the same personnel, which we have held from the very second that we started talking about this. This is the quote he gave me: "To do otherwise inevitably leads to chaos." And if you think about it, if you've got a design team handing off to a transition team later on, this team is trying to figure out how this team got to this place. Why would you want to do a handoff when all the parties, all the stakeholders can be involved from the ground level up? We just built the policy manual for the jail, and what we did is we included a lot of that jail staff there. Because if you build something, you know where everything's at. You know what it is because you helped build it. It gets buy-in. So I don't know where this idea that we need to have two separate teams. We're trying to keep down on the cost. We need to be very responsible with the taxpayers' dollars here. And we're going to talk to you later at some other time about phasing in that transition team in terms of numbers. Let's start off with what we absolutely need at that point, knowing that we may have to upscale it. We may not have to, but we're very cognizant of that. And then there's this thing about having specialty people in that team. If you get a giant team, you get too many cooks in the kitchen, and we start walking around in circles here. So what he said about that is the transition team, yes, when we have, like when we need counsel on mental health, or we need counsel on medical or whatever, we'll call in experts from the community or from the facility or wherever that expertise lies, and the council will get their input and guidance. But he goes, they've not been normally serving as members of that team. So I tell you that to tell you this. Up until this afternoon, we had already kind of looked out. We got a couple people that we know that can fulfill this position. They can fulfill it quickly. They can fulfill it expertly. If we're going to get set back here, then just know this, then the whole thing's going to get set back. We can't continue to operate where we're just talking about things and talking about and wanting this and wanting that. And I would tell you that between myself, Kyle, and the sheriff, there's almost 100 years of experience in corrections and law enforcement. Mark Martin is the expert from pony training. This is his chart. This is not mine. This is his chart. I asked him specifically about that pink box. He said, now's the time, Johnny, basically. And I've talked to DLZ, who are experts in their field. So I'm asking this. I know we were going to talk about ARPA funding, but if ARPA funding is going to be an obstacle, I would ask the council, implore the council, that we need to get this thing off the ground. And I hope we don't wind up chasing our tails here for another month or two, because we are where we are in that process. And on that chart you see, that's where we're at. The other document I handed you is what I gave you on the night that we sat here in this room for 42 minutes and 46 seconds going over this ad nauseum. So that's my pitch. I am at a loss as to why we have stepped back and we're not moving forward here. When I say we, I mean us as the meeting that we had today. It certainly appears that we've got some obstacles up ahead of us that we had no idea were there. Because the meeting we had in this room for 42 minutes, Commissioner Githens was sitting in this room when we had all of those discussions. We've not heard any objections about any of this until today. And I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to present the facts because they are relevant. They mean something here. And we're not going to sacrifice the safety and security of the jail. We just can't. And we had a wonderful response from our meeting with the council, and I just hope that we're still on that track.
The concern and urgency that you hear in the chief's voice is because we have so much going on right now. Our time is consumed, and it's not, I'm the one that chose to be the sheriff and ran for it, and I'm blessed I'm here. So I understand that the responsibility falls on me. However, that being said, I still have to consider the safety of the staff and also the residents in that facility. I can't tell you the maintenance problem that we have to deal with. So when we take on an actual project as big as this is, we are going to do our research, we are going to do our homework, and we're not going to come to you and waste your time. That's just not the way we operate. But like the chief said, one of the things that we meet on a regular basis, and I wanted him to come and tell you because he has been spearheading all this. And I do expect and hold my people to a very high standard, but we have to have a reason and a logical reason why we're doing certain things and why we're not doing certain things. And I'm at the point now that I'm gonna have to pull back somewhat because they are working tremendous hours. And this here put a lot of tremendous stress on them to try to get it to the point we're at now, and then to be surprised this way is disheartening. It truly is. So I cannot add more specific than the chief just told you, but I assure you that when we talk to people, it's because we want to make sure we're telling you the right thing and being actually factual and truthful. And that's what we'll always continue to do. So with that being said, I thank you for your time. If you don't have any questions of us, then we'll be ready to answer your question if you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you being here and bringing this to us. Let me check with my colleagues too, because I feel like there might be questions for sure. Councilor Iverson.
So I think my overriding question at this point is, today I received a contract from one of the council, or from the council attorney, about what we're talking about today. And I'm hearing about a meeting that happened earlier today that I was not present to nor invited to. Is the contract that we have in front of us still valid as a proposed contract, or are there substantive changes to the contract that was emailed to us at 4:30?
From the sheriff's perspective, which that contract is between this person and the sheriff, that contract is absolutely valid. We went over it. We are in agreement with it. I just don't know if we use ARPA funding, if we're able to proceed with that contract. Because my understanding is the ARPA funding requires the approval of the council and the commissioners. And based on what I heard today, it sounds like we've got some issues with, one, it being a part-time position at this time, or a full-time position at this time, and this kind of out of left field surprise that it needs to be someone from our agency, which we know is not in the best interest of this project. And I will tell you this, that Scott Carnegie authored a letter about the transition team. And one of the things he put in there is about the transition team director. And he said, ideally, it would be someone from the sheriff's office to lead this team. Well, as you know, what's the old saying? You don't go to war with the army you want, you go to war with the army that you have. Well, in this case, that person in our facility just doesn't exist. So we have to look outside. And I would hope, as we have went through this process of the jail and established our foothold and established our credibility and established what Sheriff Marte and his staff is all about, that we're not just gonna go out willy-nilly and find someone that, you know, is not up to this task. I mean, you never know until you actually, you know, jump off and pull the chute. But I will tell you this, I can't pull Kyle Gibbons out and make him the transition team director. I can't do it. The sheriff can't do it. We can't pull Matt Demings because they are so invaluable. It takes their daily presence to make that place work.
Councilor McKim.
So I guess I'm just fundamentally confused then. I thought we had all agreed that this would be a contract position. Mm-hmm. And so if it's a contract position, of course it wouldn't be a staff person. That's kind of
right,
one or the other. So how did having this contract position be a staff position even come into the discussion?
That's why we are equally confused, because this meeting came to us, to our knowledge, with the invitees, I think Thursday or Friday of last week. It happened today, and we had no idea what the content of their conversation this meeting was going to be about, other than it was going to be about the transition team. That's all we knew. So as we went through this is what came out of it.
So to provide what little context I might be able to add.
Please.
The meeting was called by the commissioner's office, and I believe that it was intended to share information that they had received from the pony instructor. What was his name?
Mark Martin.
Mark Martin, who was also then on the call as well.
Correct.
And you know, I think we're getting a lot of recommendations from the experts, and they can be interpreted slightly differently. And I think there was some difference in interpretation of, yeah, it would be ideal if the person came from the jail staff, but that doesn't have to be how it is. And we do know that we've talked about a contract, and our attorney's been working on a contract. We didn't have the contract for this meeting. We didn't have that at all. It wasn't about the contract. It was really about the recommendations from Mr. Martin and trying to make sure that we were understanding them similarly. The end result of that meeting is that we realized we were not understanding them similarly. We had different interpretations of the advice and expertise we were being given. So that's sort of how that conversation came about and took place. And in the meantime, I've been able to look over quickly the contract that includes an Exhibit A that lists all of the duties. And one thing that I've seen is that it does reference both the transition team and the design team.
Correct.
And at the risk of having yet another person's interpretation not align with folks, I'm seeing that as a Venn diagram of folks on a transition team that is managed through the sheriff's office. And then folks who have architectural and design expertise and perhaps some other needed insight that come together and work on, things as needed and maybe work more together during this actual design phase, which is number 5 out of 9 here. We're on number 3. We need a transition team leader. That was made very clear. I do think there's some agreement around that. But the fact that the job description references these 2 teams leaves that interpretation open, I think. Is that?
Yes, and when I talked to Scott and from our pony training, I think part of the problem is we're getting hung up on the title.
Maybe.
The design team and the transition team can and many times are the same thing. And when we talk about design, you've got to remember what you're talking about. You're talking about, and I went over this, you're talking about proximity issues. You're talking about where do you put medical versus intake? Where do you put your mental health versus medical? So when you're talking about design, that is design. Who knows that? The jail staff knows it. Those people that are, that's why Scott Carnegie said the best case scenario is your design team and your transition team are the same people and they're all from the sheriff's office. When you need expertise about, obviously, we're not gonna be talking about what type of concrete strength we're pouring in the footers here. Is that a 5,000 mix or a 6,000 or, the size of the rebar is at 5/8 or 3/4 or whatever? That's not what we're talking about here. That's your architect in the specs. The design team is about where we put things in the jail so it's safe, it operates efficiently, it requires staffing. We'll do a staffing level analysis of how we staff that. So I think that's what we're trying to get to here. I would hope we don't get hung up on design versus transition. They are recommended. I just had the conversation. They're recommended. They are the same thing and should be the same thing.
Okay. And I'm not sure that that's a huge issue for any particular person.
Yeah, and today, we touched on that a bit, if you recall, but it was all about this transition team director where we went off the rails of everything that we expected to happen tonight.
So, yeah. So I don't think, and the reason I suggested coming to a department update as opposed to waiting for the ARPA agenda item is because it has never, in my recollection, occurred that council receives information same day or that afternoon and then is willing to appropriate. Right.
Yep.
So I wanted to get you up here earlier in the agenda knowing that it was very unlikely that ARPA appropriation would take place. Also, there's a process that we've been at various levels of success of employing, but I believe worked pretty well this last month, where to appropriate for ARPA, we had a joint meeting of the commissioners and council to discuss projects that were proposed. And then it came to us in turn. And I think the last time it was, had a meeting on Monday, council meeting Tuesday, we appropriated, Wednesday morning commissioners meeting amended the plan so that the projects could go forward. And I think we can do that before the end of this month. We have a holiday week, but the following week we can do an ARPA meeting on Monday. We have a meeting scheduled, and we can table the appropriations so they're carried forward. So we can make appropriations Tuesday the 28th at our next meeting, and then have the commissioners have the opportunity to amend the plan and incorporate this position into the plan. I have not heard anything that makes me feel that this position isn't exactly what we need, and the timing is right. I mean, I heard the same thing you did this morning, and Mr. Martin said exactly that. It might not be full-time right this minute, but you have a lot of onboarding you're gonna have to do with this guy. I know he's not your staff, but there's a lot that this person will need to learn about your operations in order to be
We've got to put him in jail
effective.
for a week or two. We've got to
Yeah.
put him on transport.
Yeah,
We've got to
and we
get
are
offices.
trying to move this
Yeah,
forward,
yeah.
and this is clearly a step in a process that some folks have been trained on, and I think we're all trying to get to know. If that's amenable to you, and I am going to give my colleagues a chance to ask more questions if they want, but if that's amenable to the folks, that's what I would propose as the next steps.
Can I just, we're
Yes.
only here for two reasons.
Yes.
To make sure that we haven't departed from the path, that this, one, is a full-time position, which was discussed today, and two, that it's not going to be a jail staff member, which was discussed today.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot abide. We cannot abide. That's really how the council works its magic to make it happen, and when. I'm completely unconcerned about that. I truly am. But given today's events, we were concerned that we're going to get in another 3-4 month stalwart where we're sitting here going to meeting after meeting after meeting, trying to hold, keep this thing held
Nobody
up.
wants that.
And that's where we're concerned.
And that's the whole point, because at this point, we cannot continue doing what we're doing. And in fact, it's not fair to whoever we decide to put in that position, to that individual. We're making decisions and making trips and going. That is not fair to that individual. That person should be part of this right now. And we don't have to bring them up to speed fairly quickly. So right now, things are getting ready to move fast, and we're not prepared. I mean, I'll be factual with you right now. And the urgency that my staff has moved on this to get to this point, and then here we are. I cannot continue to keep doing this over and over again.
I respect that. My concern is that X marks the spot was today, and if I get it, moved to the end of the month, can we move X to the end of the month and we're good?
It is what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were concerned that we've hit we've ran into a wall here. And we've got Mark Martin, an expert. We've got Scott Carnegie, the expert. We've got 100 years of law enforcement telling you that this is an immediate need. It's a full-time need. And how we can do this, and I hope that counts for something, and I think it does, but I just didn't want that to get overridden because we've got this opinion that it's not full-time at this point, or it needs to come from our staff, and we're bum puzzled by it, and we wanted to make sure we came to you and informed you of where we stood on this.
Appreciate that. Yes.
I appreciate the information. I have to tell you, I've been a little confused tonight trying to figure out what's going on. And from an early age, whenever I saw folks at law enforcement, they looked a little agitated, and it was pointed in my direction. I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. The thing I just want to reference is, I recall from the last council session that we indicated our support generally for the contract. I think even we chimed in with a little bit of advice,
Yes.
You might think about this and all that, and you're whatever you disregard that you don't need, you're wiser for it, and whatever you do need that you got, bless you. But I think the sentiment coming from the council reflected that we were generally, I sometimes hear the room wrong, but I think the sentiment was that we were supportive of that effort. The only encouragement I'd have just for everybody involved in this process is I do like things in clean, deliberative ways. So knowing that by the end of the month, roughly, as President Wilt said, that we will address this, at least from our end. And we're not the commissioners, they are their own body. And I'm not a county commissioner, I do not speak for them. But from our end, I think that the goal is to address that. And that's what we can do from this end. And with ARPA dollars, the issue is that's a two-headed snake. And sometimes one head's better than the other, and it switches all the time, I'm sure. But I think that clarity is good, because if in the meeting, if I either have to go back, look at 45 CATS meetings with a full-time job and 2 kids and every other headache I have, I may not figure out what I need to figure out. But one thing I'm absolutely sure of, the public who's trying to figure out what we're talking about tonight is absolutely confused. And so I want to make sure when we do at the end of the month, that is clear so that folks know what's going on. That is the biggest comment I get, where people are like, you guys in some of these details, I cannot figure out what's going on. And I want to make sure of that. So it sounds like we're on the right track. The sentiment of this council has not changed. And I get your passion for it and your expertise as well. And we honor that. County government, the way it's built, is strange. Anyone on the outside looking at it would say it is strange. It's not like the state, and it's not like the city. It is very strange, but still more functional than Congress. And so we'll keep that going. But it's a process, and I appreciate your passion for this, and I think we've got a good goal here, and we can move towards it.
Now, in absent today's meeting, we wouldn't be here.
Okay.
But we had our say on the 24th, and you know, we knew this process was rolling down the tracks. Today threw a real curveball.
I doubt it'll be the last curveball.
Probably not.
But let's handle this one and look forward and try to get to the next one. Councilor Crossley?
Yeah, being on that meeting, I thought I was gonna learn a lot more. It was quite interesting. So speaking of confusion, is what Councilor Decker was talking about. I get a lot of conversations as well, and people are talking about what's transition team, who's this, is this all, what is all of this going on? And so for the public that is watching or will watch on CATS or whomever later, again, transition team is supposed to be composed of staff that is from the sheriff's office. This particular individual, the lead, is almost like a project manager that is going to come in and help facilitate this. Here's where it gets sticky, at least is what I heard today. From my understanding, you all are saying that that is something that is under your umbrella, and that you are wanting, with this contract, that you are wanting to basically put that person into play, and other people, other bodies, like this is your baby, this is your team, and this is what you are wanting to be responsible for. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, someone has to guide the team.
Got it.
Otherwise, we have chaos, and that person is going to be reporting directly to me and the sheriff and the jail commander, so that we're all in sync of here's how this build out goes, and here's how we make it effective and efficient, and everything that we need in that facility when we open the door for the first time. So yes, you're absolutely correct.
Okay. I guess my final comment would be is we all have mentioned so many different times that we are not trying to kick the can down the road, and that we are trying to do all that we can, because we know that we might be light years away from a new facility, but the work obviously is something that is needed to do now. And the discrepancies in personalities, I should say, I really wish that there is a way that we can try to work together, because this is something that's just kind of really pushing everything down the corner. And I know, like, and we are obviously in full support, and as your staff liaison, I'm, supporting you as well. And I'm not saying that this is for you, just you all as well. But I just think collectively, commissioners, sheriff's office, county council, we all are elected officials, and we all have our own lanes and our own rights. But all of our lanes intersect, and we can't do one thing without you. We might not be able to do one thing without commissioners, and everybody else might not be able to do things without us. So it is my hope that we can continue to support and do what we need. However, if we can just, do what we need to do and get this moving and rolling. But thank you for clarifying the points. Thank you.
I'm gonna go Counselor Hawk, and then Iverson, and then McKim.
Well, it seems to me what we're really discussing is where's this contract going to be paid from? I mean, cut down to the chase. The sheriff wants to have a contract to get this moving. And is it going to be paid for with ARPA dollars? Or are we going to be paying for it out of local taxpayers' dollars? Now, the ARPA dollars are still public dollars, but that is a financial decision. And so we would need the commissioners to say, yes, we can pay for it out of ARPA dollars because we're not in control of that. And if they say no, then what we are in control of is having to use local dollars to do this. But the contract is to be signed by you, not the commissioners. The contract person is to be hired, but the contract is to be under the sheriff. With the new legislation that's in place, remember, it no longer takes the commissioner's signature on this contract. So what the discussion here is simply, where's the money going to come from? And that is our job. Where's the money going to come from? So is this more difficult than that? I mean, it seems to me, am I making it too simple?
As it currently sits, you'll see the contract, is the parties of the contract, the sheriff and the contractor, signed by those two and approved by the commissioners. That's the way the contract is currently situated.
But change it. If the commissioners don't want to do this and you want to do this, and if the commissioners simply are not on board with this, I mean, that little part doesn't have to be in there. Whatever, I guess I'm just trying to make it simple so that we can just quit wasting everyone's time. Let's just, if we're going to do it, let's do it. If we're not, we're not. Sorry.
Counselor Iverson.
Madam President, I just heard our sheriff's department talk about feeling like they're hitting a wall. They're up against it. And I want to say, I feel the same way. I'm really frustrated. I'm going to try and keep my comments short here because I am really frustrated. We do have a contract that was emailed to us. There was collaboration on that contract. It looks like a good contract. And it sounds like we've got a plan to take care of this. And I'm going to agree with Councilmember Hawk. It's time to go on this. It's time to have a meeting. I'm glad we've got a plan. So let's do it.
Counselor McKim.
I was literally just going to express support both for the concept of the contract with the position, with a full-time person to be selected by the sheriff's office, and then also with Councilor Wiltz's timeline plan. I like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday ARPA process, and if it doesn't work, then we'll have to find another funding source, which I'm sure we're willing to do because we think it's important too, and I think everybody's committed to making this work. But I think the 27th, 28th, 29th plan is an efficient way to get this considered for agreed upon for ARPA appropriated and then added to the ARPA plan.
Counselor Munson.
I also want to support President Wiltz's proposed timeline for taking action on this. And it gives us time to review the contract, which I was in another meeting at 4:30 and did not get to see the email until I came in here. So I think that gives us plenty of time to look it over and ask any questions that we might have.
No.
Okay. And then we will be in touch with the commissioner's office to talk further about scheduling that Monday, the 27th. And if the contract we have is the final one, then I think we're set to look at it and go forth. If there are any updates, Ms. Turner King, let us know. And I thank you again for being here. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Get it done.
Yep. All right, we are on department updates. And we do have Ms. Nestor Jellin on Zoom with an update. Hello.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, council members. I'll keep it short. I just wanted to provide a quick update on the Monroe County Development Ordinance, the CDO. The CDO includes an update to the zoning ordinance, the subdivision control, and the zoning map. As Ms. Pearl from BEDC mentioned, it's the last entire update of this ordinance was in 1997, so changes are very important for us to provide updates at this point. There's been a few articles or a couple of articles in the Herald Times lately, so I just wanted to come on and kind of explain what is upcoming. So we most recently put together 4 CDO listening sessions for people to come and speak to their elected officials and appointed officials. And this was to discuss the draft zoning map and draft module 2. We encourage people to visit monroecdo.com for updates as well as helpful links and ways to comment. In an attempt to keep the CDO moving forward, we've just asked the public who are unable to attend those listening sessions that occurred in August and September to submit their feedback for Module 2, which focuses on the draft zoning map and use table, by November 17th. However, there are many more opportunities for the public to comment moving forward. Again, the date of November 17th is just to allow the Plan Commission and planning staff to start collecting and analyzing some of that public feedback received to date and incorporating those changes and start having those discussions. The final portion of the CDO Module 3 will be development standards such as landscaping, signage, parking, etc. So I just want to reiterate again, the CDO is still in a draft form. There's still opportunity to incorporate changes, give your feedback. The final comments for the CDO can be taken up until the public hearings and adoption of the CDO. Prior to the public hearings by the Plan Commission, all Monroe County landowners will be notified via mail of the date, time, and location of those hearings. The CDO zoning map and text will be fully adopted once it goes through the Plan Commission public hearings and then to the commissioners for full adoption. So we welcome people to contact our office at 812-349-2560 or planningoffice@co.monroe.in.us. For any questions. We've received a lot of good phone calls this week and believe we're able to help people in the public go over any changes. So happy to go over that with anyone, and let me know if you have any questions. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Are there any questions from council on that? Go ahead, Councilor Hawk.
Yes, when I go to the main page for the county, there should be a link there. Let's make it a lot easier for the public to find it. Or am I looking in the wrong spot? Yeah, I know. I don't know how to copy and paste, and I don't know how to find this, so whatever. I mean, when I open this up, I'm seeing a press release for the canopy of lights, the local disaster something or the legal notice for public involvement. Maybe that's it. The October one?
No, I can make sure that it's on the home page. It might be under the it's probably just under the planning page, so I can try and get on the home page. That's a good idea.
Well, let's not make people work that hard. I mean, look at that page. Very important news. View the important news. Well, that's pretty important news. Anybody know how to run a newspaper around here?
Canopy is a pretty good article too, though, I do have to say. But
I agree. If you could work to get that put on the main page, that would be great. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Nestor Jellin? No? Thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other departments wishing to provide updates this evening? Okay, I see none. So let us move to council liaison updates. Are there any council members who would like to make an update? Councilor McKim.
Thank you. As the liaison and council appointee to the Solid Waste Management District, I just wanted to let everybody know that the district has been officially and legally renamed the Waste Reduction District of Monroe County. The board, staff, and Citizens Advisory Committee all agreed that the new name better reflected the mission of the district, and further, the term solid waste creates confusion in the public about what the district actually does. So we think this is a step forward, and also because of the pending name changes, signage at the district sites haven't been replaced as soon as they otherwise should be, and so right now there's some pretty substandard signage, and undoubtedly users of the rural sites have noticed that. But those users of waste reduction district facilities will be happy to know that now that the name change has been completed, the new signage will be on the way. Thank you.
Well, excellent. All right. Any other council liaison updates? Councilor Hawk.
Yes, I wondered if you have all received the information from the airport, their good news about moving forward. They have, I don't have it open right now, I'm trying to get it to open, but it won't open. The airport, they did have their, can you open it? I'm having trouble.
I just opened it. It's the FAA Part 139 Airport Certification Inspection, and they achieved a clean inspection. Is that the notice you were talking about?
Yeah, right. That's and so much of the time they're doing wonderful things there, and we don't always know about it. I love the fact that they once in a while will put pictures of those big airplanes coming in and going out, and then people really want to get involved. But congratulations to all the airport staff, because that doesn't happen just by one person. It takes them all. So I want to say congratulations to them.
Indeed.
And then also, I'm the liaison to the treasurer's office, and they've been busy getting money so that we can spend it. And so those are things that's going on here in Monroe County. People care about how much their taxes are and how they're going to manage to pay for what the services they're being provided. And they don't always recognize that the airport is a part of what they're paying for. But the airport brings in jobs and allows us to have the kind of job creation that we have here in this county. So thanks.
Are there other council members who have liaison updates? Okay, it looks like Auditor Smith has something.
Yes, I wanted to comment on what Marty said. I spoke with Amy at the airport today, and she's very excited that the next Chamber of Commerce Business After Hours is going to be at the airport at the IU hangar, and they're going to highlight the history of the airport. So it's going to be pretty fun.
Do you have a date for that? Okay. Sorry. We can look it up. We'll find out. All right. I think that's all the liaison updates, and our next item was tabled. So we are now at item 8 with our Employee Services Department.
Council, I move to approve the Employee Services Department's request for a category transfer in Fund 1000-0309, General Fund Employee Services of $19,636 from the services category to the personnel category.
Second.
Welcome.
Good evening, Council. This is a category transfer to move some funds to cover the personnel, FICA, perf, and self-insurance lines for the position that we created in our office earlier this year. This is a do as I say, not as I do situation where Kim and I help monitor these things for the other departments, and I completely forgot to do it for myself. So I apologize for the lateness of the request.
Well, looks like it works. Are there questions or comments? Counselor Hawk?
Okay, so regardless, you are ending up doing what it is we're asking, what we want all the departments to do. Instead of asking for an additional appropriation, you're asking for a transfer of funds from one area to another. So you got that part right. So, anyway, congratulations. I didn't, as you know, support this position at the time because I felt like we add new positions at a different time than when this was.
Sure.
However, I'm glad that you have the assistance, and this part is exactly correct. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from council? All right, seeing none, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Although we can do a voice vote on the transfers.
Although we can do a voice vote, I hear. So let's do a voice vote. All in favor of approving the Employee Service Department request for a category transfer, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. And the ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now at item 9 from our Board of Commissioners.
Council, I move to approve the Board of Commissioners' request for an additional appropriation in Fund 11700307, Public Safety Lit Commissioners, in the amount of $60,000 in the services category.
Second.
Hello and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Richard Kreider, Facilities and Fleet. I'm here seeking a request of an additional appropriation of $60,000 into the Sheriff's Fleet Maintenance line. We believe that will help us get through the end of 2023. I'm happy to take any questions I'm sure you may have.
Okay, Council, yes. Counselor Hawk?
I just wondered if anyone had looked at the other lines to see if we could move some money around rather than, from one category to, I just didn't have time to look at that.
In Public Safety Lit?
Right, I'm just wondering, in that area, if there's any way we can do a transfer rather than an addition. But I'm sure someone looked at that.
Have you looked to see if there was an ability to make a transfer?
I would have to consult Angie about that, I think.
Yeah, okay.
A notice went out from the council office, or maybe it was the auditor's office, asking that each department had, a notice went out from either the council office or the auditor's office requesting that all departments look to see if they can do a transfer amongst funds before they ask for an additional. And so I'm just asking if that happened.
I believe that.
And I'm not looking at the budget now, so.
Right.
whatever.
I believe that would have been Ms. Purdy who would check for that, and she is usually pretty good about that. So the answer is, I don't think we know if that was fully reviewed. But are there other questions from council about this additional? Going once. All right. Is this amount of, it says in the text that the average, well, there is a typo. I'm just going to ignore the typo. But the average monthly expense for the fleet maintenance for the sheriff is $15,000 to $20,000 per month.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing.
No, that's a lot. Is that consistent over time? Like, was that the case last year?
I'm gonna put this in a nutshell. I am pumping a lot of money into vehicles that I would like to surplus, and we recently received 5 new vehicles. We purchased 6, we received 5. That's gonna allow me to rotate some vehicles out of the fleet that are becoming costly, really. I think
I think the more newer vehicles we can bring in, it will help reduce the cost of the vehicle maintenance. Hang on, bear with me here. So yeah, that's it. I've had to spend some money on some substantial engine work and that type of thing on cars where I think normally you might say, you know what, I'm not going to spend that kind of money on this vehicle. But for instance, this summer, we had most of the spares, I believe all the spares 13 were in use at one time. And that's kind of a bad situation, I think. And so they have to be available and we have to keep them available. And, you know, if one has 130,000 miles on it, it's going to cost a fair amount of money to keep that vehicle maintained properly. So when we can rotate those out, it's a better situation.
Are you anticipating these costs then to stay about the same?
I anticipate them to decrease. I do.
Okay.
Because we were able to bring in some new vehicles.
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to be able to rotate some out. But I don't want to rotate out too many because I don't want to find myself in a situation like this summer where we're, you know, they're all in use. And that's like I said, that's a bad situation.
For sure. Councilor Decker.
You're essentially saying that we might get us a little bit of a newer car float for just a little bit on some of that maintenance.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You're essentially saying that for a while we might get a newer vehicle kind of float like we all get when we get a newer car, but you've been paying a lot of costs because these things are running through and they're wearing down. And Dad's old drive it till it rusts down doesn't exactly work well for fleet maintenance, right?
You got it.
I got it.
Michelle?
Yes, I just pulled up the location report regarding this budget. It has 3 lines with regards to services. One is for animal control, sheriff's maintenance, and jail maintenance. The animal control line has $2,000. The jail maintenance has $698.41. So they can't make a category transfer or an in-house transfer with regards to this $60,000. The remainder of this budget is all personnel.
All right.
You're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate that. Are there other questions or comments?
I want to add one thing.
Yeah.
I think there was a point in time where you could put in an order for several vehicles and you receive those vehicles in a decent amount of time. And 2023, those vehicles were supposed to arrive in April and they didn't get here until later in the year. And that entire time, you're pumping money into vehicles that you would rather just see go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Councilor Iverson.
I'm going to ask my routine, where are we at with greening the sheriff's fleet question?
Where are we at with the what?
Greening the sheriff's fleet question.
Greening the sheriff's fleet question. I am not any further on that than
That's
maybe
all right.
the last time you asked me.
I asked it pretty, not too long ago, so.
I think there's some other departments that are adding EVs, and I kind of want to have a look at those and see how it's going. There's actually one not too far from here that I would like to go visit soon and have a sit down with them and see how it's going.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments or questions from council? All right. Then could I please have a roll call vote?
Public comment.
Oh, there's public comment. Please make comments, public. And no comments from public. All right. Now, could I have a roll call vote?
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley. Yes. Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Appreciate it. Yep. Before we move on, I just wanted to note that in the chat, Mr. Shelton has let us know that the Business After Hours event at the airport is on December 13th, starting at 5:30. So now our viewership is made aware. Thank you. We are now, are we all the way to 11? My goodness. Yes.
Council, I move to approve the Board of Commissioners' request for a fund-to-fund transfer of cash of $235,000 for Fund 1238-000 opioid unrestricted settlement fund to Fund 91640068 opioid grant RFF 2023-007.
Second.
Well, hello and welcome.
Hello. I think you all know me. I'm Commissioner Penny Githens.
Hi, Kathy Hewitt from the Health Department. Good evening.
Good to see you both.
So we'll start just with item A. And this is just to transfer the funds that we have already are receiving from the state into our own fund so that we can be using this. And this is the transfer of opioid settlement money that we have gotten so that it's our match portion for the monies that we've received in the amount of $576,000 as additional money.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from council? Councilor Iverson.
I just, for the record, want to indicate that Mr. Nick Voiles is in the back of the room as well.
I was going to bring him up for item B, but it's fine to have him here right now.
Come on up.
It's my pleasure to introduce Nick Voiles, who's the Executive Director of the Indiana Recovery Alliance. And Nick was instrumental in actually putting together the grant application as well for all these things and has been working with us.
Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. I'm a lifelong Monroe County boy, so.
Oh, great. Well, it's good to have you.
First of all, a while back, I have to apologize for something. A while back, one of my newly hired employees was at one of these functions and had some kind of foul language and some attitude. And we dealt with that in-house and made sure that that was reprimanded. So I'm sorry if that offended anybody. That's not how we act. That's not how we are there. We run a ship that has nothing to do about anything but love and compassion. So if that happened, I'm sorry, and it won't happen again.
Wow, thank you.
I put together a couple things for you guys, if you want to take a look. Kind of hastily done, and the printer was weird, but you can get the gist.
All right.
It'll give you a brief kind of like idea of what we are. This is a snapshot. We are a robust program, but it'll kind of give you an idea to answer some of the questions you might have and see what it is we do. I'm sure as you all know that we have a large problem in our nation and in our county. And this thing that's become a little bit more popular now, harm reduction, I was not an easy convert to. I at first didn't understand it. I had no idea what giving people needles would help. It took me about a year to see the proof and to see the people. And to see the people I thought would never get into any sort of form of recover. You know, I now walk with so many of those people, and I've lost so many of those people. And I lost my best friend of 35 years, who I never thought would have left. And it's very personal work for me. I'm also a survivor of hepatitis C and incarceration. So like, this is very, very, very personal work to me. I'm a lifelong Monroe County kid. I'm not going anywhere. I've been here my whole life and I'm not moving. This building will allow us to do more than just have a certain service program. We will open further services for people in recovery, the many pathways of recovery. We will have a place where people can be safe, people can be respected and cared for. Not housing, although I wish I could do that, but we can push forward with doing programs that will make serious changes. Not just, changes that get 5% of the people, changes that pull in 67% of the people. People are 5 times more likely to seek some sort of recovery just by walking in my door. Just by being able to have a conversation with me about their drug use or one of my staff changes everything. They don't have to hide. They can simply have a discussion about something that is so taboo that they don't even know where to begin with their family. And some, just by me understanding and having been through it, or some of my staff that have been through it, they can open up in a way that's monumental, you know? We're also anonymous. The thing about being in anonymity, I don't know if any of you are in any other programs like this, but it is everything. In the early dark days, when the 12 steps were everything we had, people used to say, "Are you a friend of Bill's?" Because you could not say that you were an alcoholic. You couldn't. It would lose everything in your stature. That still holds true today. So we are very careful, you know, to keep things anonymous. And that's one of the bulwarks of our places. You can come here. We don't know your name. We won't look at you in public. But we'll give you anything we can to help you get a leg up and get to a place where you can feel like you're human again, where you can feel like someone loves you and cares for you and is willing to go a little extra mile for you, which is a very rare quality today. If you have any questions about any of that, please ask.
Thank you. Turn to my colleagues. Are there any questions or comments?
Just thank you for coming and speaking. I know it's not always easy to come and speak about this topic in a public setting, so we're here for you.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you for doing the work that you do. I've past few years learned more and more about harm reduction. I'm still learning, and it's clear that it is a valuable path forward for folks. And I hope that not just on a local level, but across the state, we start to really appreciate that as an option.
We're working really hard on that.
Yeah, appreciate it. We have a motion before us. Are there any questions or comments on the motion for any of our folks here? No? All right. Then I'm asking for public comment. I'm not forgetting this time. I see no public comment, so could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
No.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
Thank you. We have item B.
Council, I move to approve the Board of Commissioners' request for new account lines 28241 opioid restriction supplies 41104 vehicle purchase and 45151 property acquisition in Fund 91640068 opioid grant RFF, and to simultaneously approve an additional appropriation in the amount of $117,000 in the supplies category and $670,000 in the capital category for a total appropriation of $787,000.
Second.
And did you want to address any of this specifically? I think we've heard about some
So
of it.
as you all know, we have a mobile vehicle. And the mobile vehicle was handed down by Dan Bigg, who was in just a pioneer in the naloxone efforts in the early years. And it rested and rolled around, and it's now, just to get a brake job done, $3,500. I love it. I think I'm probably gonna keep it for a training vehicle maybe, but like, it cannot be on this, it needs to retire. You know, it was in 1995, and I don't know if any of you have driven a bread truck or a step side van from the old days, then you know what I mean. When the brakes go to the floor, it's time to put it up, you know? And we recently took it into Ken's, and I asked him, what are we looking at? And he was like, I hope you really love this thing. And it's just time. We need to reach people where they're at, and this vehicle is not gonna allow that for much longer. And so we've searched everywhere. We found a place that we trust, that other people have told us is trustworthy. They do everything and even deliver the vehicle, and we get to design it to do things like, right now we work with the nurses at Public School of Public School of Health. We train them, and we'll be able to actually have an inside testing room. We'll be able to have a lift so that people who are disabled can actually be lifted in. Not like it is now, where it's really hard to like meander somebody up onto this small space. And it'll change the face of what we can do in our recovery efforts. We can reach places we couldn't reach. You know, we can train. I train all over the state. I've trained the entire harm reduction street outreach team that we have here in the state it'll allow me to take that to people and actually train new teams in new places that are harder to reach. So it's a game changer for us and for the state. And I don't know if you guys know this, but in harm reduction, Monroe County is like a beacon. We are literally who's trained most of the state in harm reduction. And to have something like this, as well as Larry, would mean we have both training as well as something that's viable to go places. And it gives us a place to help the next generation of people wanting to do peer recovery work, wanting to work into this, see something they can do and look at and go, I can be that, I can get there. You know, if I can get there, they can get there, you know?
Just as a point of clarification, right now, HIV and HCV testing on Larry is done in this little cubby way at the back with your arms in like that. There's just no room. So we're hoping for a bigger testing space where it'll have privacy and confidentiality, more privacy and confidentiality to be able to offer that testing. Right now, Nick is providing education, like an educational clinical for the nurses at IU, but it's educational only. The nurses aren't doing testing, so.
Thank you.
One of the things that harm reduction does also is it reduces the incidence of Hep C and HIV, and we're starting to see a spike back up in that. Is that correct? That we have seen a little bit of that, at least around the state. I know that they said that they have. I also, you all know this, every week I review the claims, and part of that is what we're paying for autopsies. This week, it's $3,900. That's for 3 autopsies. And that part of that is because we are seeing overdose deaths here. And so one of the things that harm reduction also, I think, is successful at is we are saving people's lives with this. So I urge you to create these lines, and thank you for your help.
Thank you. Are there comments from Councilor Iverson?
The last thing that I would like to say is, you know, this is also HIV, HCV prevention. This is a big HIV, HCV prevention effort. That is one of the big reasons, as well as harm reduction, that the state's involved with that and encouraged us to do this program. So,
In 2019, we were in 2019, Indiana was #1 in the entire nation with new hepatitis C infections. The only reason we're not seeing that right now is because COVID came and testing halted. We had much more things to deal with. As these next year or two rise, I guarantee you'll be right there again. And what we're seeing right now preliminarily is out the door. You know, I just wanted to state that. This is one of the best efforts we have to get people who normally won't get there, who normally won't walk into a hospital or anywhere else.
Yeah. Wow. Councilor Iverson.
Clearly, I am in support of these very important projects, and as we just read out some pretty high dollar amounts for vehicle purpose and property acquisition, just wanted to ask simple questions of, you know, do we have eyes on a vehicle? Do we have one already selected out? I know vehicle acquisition is difficult these days, and same with property acquisition. What's the story on the property?
So we have found a property at 1710 West 3rd Street. It needs a little renovation, but for where it is, it's on a beeline. It's close to the shelter. And I guess what I just now know, which I think is the best thing, is that the Beacon building will be right next to it. Nice. So we will literally be there, those 3 people in an arc of services, which is very rare in our world. That's very rare. The building is big and is going to need help. But for what we found, I don't know if you guys have ever shopped for a building here with that money. I thought that was a lot of money when I asked for it. I thought that was a crazy amount of money. Everything in town was $1 million. There was nothing I could find. This showed up and works perfect. It's 2 separate buildings. It's a building but has 2 separate places. So that way we can incubate what's called an RCO and start a recovery community organization. We can start other efforts through there. We can have, you know, 1,000 million things. We want to get an IRACS program in here. You know what I mean? That's one of the things we're really trying to work for. All of these things can be facilitated through the size of this building, which is wonderful. And I just found out today that the roof's not bad, which is was my big scare, because I'm a roofer, so it was a big scare. The vehicle, we found one. When we looked for used vehicles, they were like, it was really kind of a scary thing, because what we found was most of them were in the upper. First of all, I didn't understand how much they were either. When I asked the state how much for a vehicle, they said, 100,000. So that's what we thought, 150. A used vehicle with 4,000 miles that's 2 years old is 180,000. We found one at Tesco that we're hoping to get additional funds for and grip. That's 245,000 new with a huge warranty. and it's completely, we can design it how we want. So like we can put a hand washing station, which is huge for wound care. So like when we work with Health Net and they're on deck, they can do some wound care stuff there, you know? And so we have eyes on both of them, ready to go right now.
Great, and you're right. I mean, that's really close to Wheeler. That's really close to where, but it's also very close to some frozen custard places.
Culver's. Culver's.
I mean, yeah. Great, thank you.
Are there other comments or questions from council? Okay, all right. Is there any public comment? I see no public comment, so let's go ahead and have a roll call vote on the appropriation.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
No.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Come see it when it unveils. We'll have an opening. And I'd love as much as you can come stop by. Even if it's just random and you want to stop by, we love it. Please feel free to see it. Once we get in the building, get everything set up, we'll put out like what we're going to do with it for our opening. But come and see us. See what we do. It's a game changer actually seeing it and seeing what changes we make in our community. Some things get put out of proportion and people don't understand. Seeing it is believing it. And that's what happened to me. And I suggest anybody who doesn't feel that way should see it for their own eyes and see if that, just to check, well, let me see if these guys are really talking or if somebody else is talking. I suggest you come and see us, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are at item number 12.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request for a new account line 16800 transitional temp training position in Fund 1176-0000 motor vehicle highway.
Second.
Welcome, Ms. Ridge.
Good evening. We have an employee that's been with us for 26 years. She is retiring December 15th. So we have began the transition of replacing that position. So we just needed to create this line so we can transfer existing funds into it to get us through that 2-week period of cross-training.
All right, that's how we do it, and it makes sense. Any questions or comments? Yes?
Okay. Am I confused? I thought we had said more than one time that every department should have a transition line. Did we say that?
You talked
We
about
did
it,
talk
but it
ab-
was never officially moved on.
Because
We
it,
did
the transition line can only be used for transition. I'm not saying put an appropriation in there. I'm saying have the line for every department. So if they want to do a transition and they've got the money to move down to it, they're not sitting here for 2 hours to do something that should just be automatic. This is just me. Whatever.
Yeah, well, in general, I think both of Ms. Ridge's items could probably be handled by staff and or remotely. We hate to make you waste your time. You must really love coming.
I want
in
to
front
come
of
and
county
see you
council.
guys.
I
It's,
know. You must really love that.
Get at work at 7 a.m., so it's great to stay here till 7 p.m. So it's fine.
She's busy. She has beautiful grandbabies. She needs to be home.
It's perfectly
In the
fine. It's
time.
part of the job.
We also
Okay.
like the roundabout.
Pardon?
We also like the roundabout.
The
It's
roundabout's
really
pretty
nice.
cool.
It's
Oh,
very
the
pretty.
landscaping?
Yeah.
Thank you. I
looks
think it
lovely.
turned out really, if you haven't been down there at night, you should see the lights at night. It is very nice.
All right.
Did a good job on that.
The one at
So-
the end of Smith, and it's just wonderful. I never have to worry about it. I know I'm not gonna sit there in lines just trying to get to the other side of the road. I love it.
Call the question.
Yes. Is there any public comment on this item? I don't even know if there should be. Let's go ahead and have do we need a roll call vote on this? Yeah. I guess so. Let's have a roll call vote.
This one requires no appropriation, so you can do a voice vote.
Let's have a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Can we put a discussion and agenda item on adding these lines to all the departments, just some time in the near future?
Sure.
Thank you.
Because we'll have to do it, we'd have to amend the salary ordinance.
Yes.
And that kind of thing, so, okay.
Yeah. All right. We are ready for B.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request for a category transfer in Fund 1176 0000 Motor Vehicle Highway of $50,000 from the services category to the supplies category.
Second.
Got any juicy stories for us on this one?
Not really. So, and I really don't mind being here, so I think it's good. I think it's transparent. People know what we're doing, so I don't mind having to come to these meetings. In 2023, we purchased a piece of equipment for road widening. When we've paved a road, sometimes you get a higher pavement than the edge of the shoulder. So this is to add stone, and then it gets packed down to kind of make a stone shoulder. So we've been doing that on a lot of our paved roads, so we've used quite a bit more stone this year. So we're just asking to transfer from the gas and oil, which is a 3, into the stone and gravel, which is a category 2.
Mm-hmm. Are there questions or comments from council? Nope. All right. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
It's a transfer, you can do a voice.
First of all, public comment. I see none. All right, all in favor of the category transfer, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. It passes, the ayes have it, it's unanimous. Thank you for your patience.
Madam President, I apologize. I'm doing solo parenting tonight, and I have to go do a kid transport. So I apologize. I hate to leave you all with so much fun.
Important work. Have a good night.
Council, I move to approve the Health Department's request for additional appropriations in Fund 81269624 Futures Clinic in the amount of $61,305 in the personnel category, $7,265 in the supplies category, and $12,195 in the services category, for a total appropriation of $80,665.
Second, was that 80,765?
Yes. That's what I got in my notes.
All right, second.
All right. Hi, Miss Kelly is on Zoom with us. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening. So this is just to approve a new grant contract funding. So the Futures Clinic does alternate between TANF grant funding and Title X grant funding. In addition, we rely on program income and insurance reimbursements. But this is just for the new grant contract that began in October.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from council? Okay, seeing none. Any public comment? And could I have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Crossley? Yes. Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hall?
Yes.
Excuse me. Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, item B.
Council, I move to approve the Health Department's request for a category transfer in Fund 81509623 TANF Futures of $1,191.42 from the supplies category to the personnel category.
Second.
Okay. Do we need any information on this one? It's another
This is just to balance the account before we transition to Title X.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions from council? Any public comment? Could we have the roll call vote, please?
I didn't hear you.
That's all right.
Okay, so this you're doing a category transfer?
Yes.
You can do a voice vote.
All right, all in favor of the category transfer, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it unanimously. We are now at item C.
Council, I move to approve the Health Department's request for additional appropriations in Fund 81509623 TANF Futures in the amount of $403.34 in the personnel category and $242.42 in the services category for a total appropriation of $645.76.
Second.
Okay, we're appropriating the TANF grant.
Yes, and this is just from our insurance reimbursement claims.
Oh, okay. Any questions or comments? Any public comment? Could we have the roll call vote, please?
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Next item is D.
Council, I move to approve the Health Department's request for a category transfer in Fund 81129623 STD Strengthening Prevention of $9,954.28 from the supplies category to the services category.
Second.
Okay.
And this is just generally housekeeping too, just moving some money around to finish paying out the IU health contract that we have and to provide additional funding for mileage.
All right, are there questions or comments from council? Okay, any public comment on this one? And it is a category transfer, so we can do a voice vote. All in favor of the transfer, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. And the ayes have it unanimously. That's it for that one. Great. Thank you.
All right, great, thanks.
We're now at item 14.
Council, I move to approve the de-appropriations in Fund 89500000 American Rescue Plan Act in the amount of $98,222.22 in the personnel category and $164,000 in the services category.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Gregory, would you like to talk to us a little bit?
Sure. This is just one of those housekeeping items. The retention bonus project has been completed. So the final disbursements went out, and we don't anticipate any further. And then the Sojourn House renovation project has been at a standstill for some time, and it seems it's not going to move forward. So we're just requesting de-appropriation so that those funds can be utilized elsewhere.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council? I see none. Is there any public comment on this item? Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes?
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Crossley,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Munson.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Next brings us to item B, and that is our additional appropriations that we've been carrying forward for ARPA. I do not know of any specific requests for this evening. Are there any that we need to make known? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to carry this one forward, so table it until our next work session on November 28th.
So moved.
Second.
Fantastic. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. We're at 15.
Council, I move to approve the County Council summary minutes of September 12, 2023 regular session and September 26, 2023 work session as presented.
Second.
Any questions, comments, corrections, notations? Okay, seeing none there. We can have a voice vote, so all in favor of minutes approval, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And motion passes unanimously. That brings us to council comments. Does anybody have anything left to say to us this evening? Councilor Crossley?
Just because I just want to do it. Today is Councilor Decker's birthday.
Oh, yes.
And so it is important for us to recognize him on his special day. So happy birthday.
Shall we sing?
Oh, no.
I don't want to, we don't have to do all that.
We should definitely not do that.
Happy birthday
No.
to you.
What's happened?
Happy birthday
Prince.
to you.
Happy
Happy birthday, Councilmember Decker. Happy birthday to you.
Well, since you've done that, thank you very much. It's a joy and privilege to celebrate my birthday with you all. And I wanted to say one thing. We were talking earlier about the announcements on the webpage. Please keep in mind a beautiful moment in this community is going to happen in it'll be a week from Friday. It'll be on November 24th. Retail commonly known as Black Friday, et cetera, but the day after Thanksgiving, essentially. But the lighting of the canopy of lights will occur here with the courthouse being the main actress in that great scene. And if you've never seen that, come see it. If it's been a while since you've seen it, come back and enjoy your community. It's a beautiful moment that rejuvenates me for every single year. And so I look forward to seeing all friends and neighbors at that.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Councilor Hawk?
Yes, I noticed there was some email going back and forth about a trip to Ohio to take another look at that same jail. I mean, the trip's already been made. It's an expensive thing. I mean, it appeared to me they were saying, and if anybody wants to go and spend the night, it's like, well, I mean, I don't know, am I just looking at this wrong or what? I mean, and I went online to look at their jail facility, and you could see the pictures of it and whatever. How much does it cost to keep going back and looking at the same facility that is huge? This just doesn't even look like anything we would do. So I don't know where the money's coming from, where people are gonna go spend the night. Let them know who all wants to go spend the night in a hotel there to go do this. I'm floored that we spend money on things that are it's not productive.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not finding fault with any one person, since I don't know where this idea came from, but I was pretty shocked when I saw it. Just FYI.
Yep. Noted. Any other comments? Oh, Michelle, you had something?
Yes, I just wanted to remind the council that we will be sending out reappointment letters for citizen boards and commissions. And so if anybody has any questions, we sent an email out earlier with those appointments. And if anybody has any questions, please let me know, because we will be sending those out tomorrow. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thanks. And with that, we are adjourned.